So this is how the UFC should book the heavyweight division. As you can see on screen, I've got the top 15 ranked UFC heavyweights, and I'm going to go through matchups that I believe the UFC should make to push this division forward. So obviously, as champion, we've got Jon Jones, and we know that this guy is out injured for, I think they say he might be back next year, near the end of next year, which is a very long time, obviously, and they're still going on about matching him up against Stipe. I don't know why the UFC want to do that. I don't even think it generates that many pay-per-view buys. As in, I don't think it sells much more than what Tom Aspinall versus John would do, because in my opinion, Stipe's never really been that big of a pay-per-view draw. But it is a legacy fight for both guys, so I kind of see why they want to do it. But this is matchups that I want to make. So yeah. So for me, the obvious one is to make Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall whenever John is fit to come back for to unify the division. That's a no-brainer. It makes sense. It's probably one of the best fights the UFC can make. Just in the whole promotion, I think it would be a big seller, especially because Tom Aspinall will have the whole of the UK backing him, and Jon Jones is Jon Jones. I think it would be a really interesting matchup, and in my opinion, at this current stage in both guys' career, I would pick Tom Aspinall to beat Jon Jones. Would he finish him? I'm not too sure, but I do think Tom Aspinall would beat Jon Jones. So that is the first matchup I think the UFC should make for the heavyweight division in 2024. Tom Aspinall, Jon Jones, unify the division. Next up, another matchup that I want to see made. We've got Ciryl Gane, who ducked the fight with Tom Aspinall. He is coming off a win against Spivak. He did look really impressive in that, but as we know, he got dominated by Jon Jones in round one. So for me, I don't think Gane deserves a fight against Tom Aspinall. Not now. I think he needs to have one more win. And I think the perfect matchup to give Ciryl Gane is Almeida. Almeida is coming off that domination of Derek Lewis. It was meant to be Curtis Blades. Derek Lewis stepped in on short notice. It was a very boring matchup, let's be real. But Almeida done what he had to do to beat Derek Lewis, and he dominated him. So I think him versus Ciryl Gane makes a lot of sense. To see who is next after Tom fights John, I think it is a really interesting stylistic matchup. We haven't got to see how good Almeida is on the feet. He's obviously one of the best grapplers in the division, and Ciryl Gane is one of the best strikers in the division, so they are kind of polar opposites. Almeida, I think I read a stat, this guy's barely been hit at heavyweight, which is insane. And we know that Gane does struggle with grapplers. So it would be a really interesting matchup. They were talking about doing this in Paris maybe next year. I think that's a great main event, and I would like to see it. I'm unsure of who would win. It's hard to say because you don't know how good Gane's grappling is. He did look decent against Spivak, but again, Spivak is nowhere near the level of Almeida, in my opinion. For me, I'm probably going to go for Almeida beating Ciryl Gane. Yeah. Next up, you've got Pavlovich, who did get KO'd by Tom Aspinall in the first round for the interim belt. What I think should be next for him, obviously he needs to take some time away, but what I think should be next is Alexander Volkov. Now, yes, these guys did train together or do train together, but I did see where both guys have said that they will fight each other if it is necessary, and for me, it is necessary. So let's make that matchup next. Volkov's coming off that really impressive performance against Tai Tuivasa, and Pavlovich is coming off that unfortunate loss to Tom Aspinall. Great matchup, makes sense in terms of the rankings. Make it happen. Next, you've got Stipe Miocic. Now, like I said, the UFC want to book him versus John. No. In my opinion, if Stipe is wanting to fight again, if he doesn't fight Tom Aspinall now, then he should be made to retire or fight someone else before fighting for the belt. I think what should be next for Stipe is retirement, to be honest. For me, I honestly don't see any other matchups to make at the minute other than Tom Aspinall. He doesn't deserve to fight Jon Jones, in my opinion, now. You know, I was all for the Jon Jones matchup, but now that we've got an interim champion, it doesn't make sense, and it makes the sport look stupid. It makes the rankings look stupid. For me, if Stipe doesn't want to fight Tom Aspinall, I would just retire. Honestly, I don't really think there's a point in giving him any other matchups. So yeah, for me, I'm skipping Stipe because he's a bit of a weird one, to be honest. Next, we've got Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades, in my opinion, has the skill set to be heavyweight champion in this division. I do think he's really underrated, but what Curtis Blades lacks is fight IQ. This guy's fight IQ at times is non-existent. We've seen against Pavlovich, he tried to stand and stay on the feet with him instead of going right away to the grappling, and it cost him and he get beat. So yeah, for me, I don't, like I said, Almeida's going to be fighting Cyril Gane in an ideal world for me. Blades, in my opinion, should be put in there against Sergey Spivak. Both grappling heavy fighters. Spivak's obviously coming off that loss, or Blades is also coming off that loss. So whoever wins this would be a good confidence boost, and then from then you can make whoever wins that matchup against the loser of Cyril Gane Almeida. Ignore the voice break. In my opinion, I think that's a really good matchup. Yeah, Blades versus Spivak. In my opinion, Curtis Blades will win that. I think he is a lot more polished on the feet than Spivak. Both guys, like I said, are grappling heavy, but very different when it comes to how they grapple. Spivak is more with trips and sweeps and things like that, and Blades is more just your traditional takedowns. But for me, yeah, I think Blades has the advantage on the feet, and I'd also give him the advantage on the ground, so I would pick Curtis Blades to win that matchup. Next up, Volkov, like I said, him versus Spivak, or Pavlovich, Almeida versus Gane, Spivak versus Curtis Blades. Tai Tuivasa. This guy has been on a bit of a skid recently, very unfortunate, but a very fan-friendly. The guy's just loved by the whole MMA community, to be honest, and whoever he fights next, everybody is going to tune in and watch. He didn't look great against Volkov, let's be honest. But for me, the guy who's ranked below him in Derek Lewis is coming off that loss to Almeida. These guys have fought before. I think it's a very fan-friendly fight that everybody would want to see again. I don't think anybody would complain if it was made. For me, just rebook the rematch. Tai Tuivasa, Derek Lewis, make it happen. A UFC Fight Night main event, I think it makes sense. It doesn't have the same weight to be a co-main event on a pay-per-view, in my opinion. It will bring eyes, but I just think there's more deserving fights that could be co-main events on pay-per-views. Although, I do think this would be a great Fight Night main event. Maybe next year when they go to Australia again, if there is a Fight Night available, make that fight happen. Then you've got Marcin Tybura, who is coming off that loss to Tom Aspinall. Again, Tom Aspinall, in my opinion, is the best in the division, so you shouldn't be ashamed to lose to him, in my opinion. What should be next for Tybura, in my opinion, should be Jairzinho Rozenstruik. This guy is coming off a loss to Almeida. He has been out of the cage for a while. I think this is a fun matchup, and Jairzinho's good to have in these top rankings, in my opinion. This guy's got the power to knock anybody out, take anybody's head off. I do think he would beat Tybura, in my opinion. I think he would KO him. So yeah, that's a matchup I'd like to see. Next up, you've got Romanov, who is coming off a win against Ivanov. But before that, the guy was on a 2-fight losing streak. But for me, I think you should match him up against Rodrigo, who is 11-1 in the UFC. He's currently ranked number 15. This guy is on a 3-fight win streak. Although 2 of those wins were split decisions. One of those was unanimous decision, which you don't really get to see at heavyweight, really. You know, the guys who are really making a run in the top 10, top 5 are KOing people, finishing people, where this guy just isn't. I think this would be a good way to see what this guy actually is like. I don't think Romanov or Rodrigo are really set or really deserving to be in the top 10 at the minute, in my opinion. So I think pairing those guys off makes sense. Lastly, we've got De Lima. This guy, he got Jorge Masvidal by Derek Lewis. I have seen a thing where this guy is saying like his teeth are still fucked from that fight. Yeah, for me, I don't really know who you'd book him up against, to be honest. I think until you get your mouth and your teeth fixed, stay out of the cage. So yeah, for me, sit on the sidelines. But yeah, those are my matchups that I want to see for the top elite fighters in heavyweight. I don't know why I stopped there. The elite fighters in the heavyweight division in the UFC. Comment below, what do you think about these matchups? What matchups would you like to see in 2024 for the heavyweight division? And as always, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. As you can see on the top of the screen, those are my other links to my other socials. Would really appreciate any support, and I'll see you again in the next one.